Hello and welcome back to the Lore Raider to a very unique video. The better part of a year ago, a channel called Nando V Movies started the One Villainous Scene project, in which a channel dedicates a video discussing that one defining scene of a villain and how it informs the audience of that character's motivations and actions. Some videos stick to that only one scene, while others use many scenes, with the one scene being the pinnacle moment for the character. Today I want to talk about my favorite villain in all of Metroid, the SAX. So join me today as we discuss one of the best Metroid games ever, and its one villainous scene. The reason I love SAX and Metroid Fusion in general so much is because it is one of the most thematically rich and tonally consistent games in the entire series. There are many things that Fusion wants to do. It wants the player to feel dread and feel isolation. But unlike its sequel, Fusion has another purpose, and that is flipping the Metroid experience on its head. For most of the series, you play as Samus Aran, triumphant galactic bounty hunter, destroyer of worlds, exterminator of entire species, and the hero to the galaxy. In most of the games, there is no moral quandary on who is the hero in these stories. Samus Aran is good, and the beings in her way, they don't deserve a second thought. Until Fusion, that is. The scene in question is set up so masterfully. The very opening shows Samus walking in on a horned nest and proceeds to try and exterminate it. No care that this is its home to begin with. It's merely one of hundreds she has killed by this point, with no consequences. But this time there is a consequence, as Samus is on the receiving end of the vicious attack by an X-parasite. She finds herself clinging on to dear life. Already the game has upped the stakes and established the X as a threat that will not sit idly by as you hunt it down. Following this, as the Samus makes her way to the BSL station, she confesses she feels a nameless fear in her heart. Fear is an interesting word. The only thing Samus has ever shown to fear was Ridley, but Ridley's dead as a Super Metroid. The game from here mirrors that of Metroid 2 very closely. In both games, Federation staff are never heard from again. In both games, Samus arrives on the surface and kills some Hornodes. In both games, Samus battles and kills Arachnus as the first real boss of both games. And in both, there's a Metroid on the loose. And where there are unwanted Metroids, Samus is not far behind. This one villainous scene encapsulates everything you need to know about the game moving forward and about the SAX. The way the SAX stops and looks at the player with those soulless eyes. Was that the last thing the injured and dying space pirates on the frigate Orpheon saw before Samus killed them? Was it the last thing the Metroids on SR-388 saw before their wraith was exterminated? But Samus was the hero in those games, remember? She was the hero. Well, remember, Metroid Fusion is all about perspective, and Fusion does everything in its power to reinforce this idea. But the SAX is literally Samus, right down to her memories. And so it's ironic in telling them that all the decisions the SAX does is a mirror of what Samus has done in the past. The quote I decided for this video was one Samus herself says, "SAX is me, only Heartless." But is that true? Why did Samus kill the Metroids in Metroid 2? To create a true peace in space, of course. To stop the threat that they posed. Why then is the SAX doing all that it is doing in Metroid Fusion? Why would it blow up Sector 3? Why would it try to kill Samus and the Metroids in the hidden lab? Well, it's as Samus said, to create a true peace in space and to stop the threat that they posed for the X. Metroid Fusion inspires me to go back and look at Samus' deeds in the past and wonder just how righteous our favorite bounty hunter was. Things that we see Samus do and perceive as good, we see the SAX do and perceive as bad. When SAX chases Samus down, who even midway through the game has the Metroid signature colors, it's perceived by us as a monster chasing down the hero. But for the SAX, who has Samus's memories, Samus is the monster. Samus is the Metroid. Samus needs exterminating. Samus blows up the BSL station to exterminate the X. The X blows up the hidden lab and tries to melt down Sector 3 to exterminate the Metroids. But I think my second favorite mirror between Metroid 2 and Fusion is right there at the very end. That moment where SAX as Samus stands over her defeated adversary and she faces off against the Omega Metroid, as Samus is nothing more than a weakened stationary observer. No different from how the X was in Metroid 2, just weakened and crystallized, powerless to do anything about the Metroids. And yes, I did say my second favorite. The favorite goes back to that quote, "The SAX is me, only Heartless." Samus wants us to believe, and she herself believes, that despite her undoubtedly cruel acts toward her enemies, despite how the SAX's point of view could be argued that is justified, despite how many planets she has left destroyed in her wake, that she is better than the SAX. And she's right, because Samus has never twisted the knife. Let me ask you this. Why did the X wait to use Neo Ridley until the very last moment? Right now, I want to encourage my viewers to watch Jay Mason's video on his own One Villainous Scene video. That being on Ridley and how Ridley broke Samus in the prequel manga, as well as the PTSD scene in Other M. It is an excellent video, I highly recommend it, and you'll find it in the description and the pinned comment down below. His video made me realize the SAX would have had access to both Samus' memories from her whole life up till now, as well as clone Ridley's memories as well. She would have seen and known just how much these two reviled each other, how much Ridley tormented Samus when she was young, and their constant bouts since then. So I ask you again, why is Ridley the last boss before SAX herself? To twist the knife. Maybe it was hoping Samus would break down as she did in Other M. Maybe it was because on the very planet they are orbiting, where Samus exterminated the X's greatest threat, she had fought Proteus Ridley. Maybe to show Samus just how much the SAX and all of X-Kind hated her, just as Ridley hated her before them. Or maybe all of them at once. This was psychological warfare, and only something Samus would do if she didn't have a heart. That is why I love Metroid Fusion. Its tone and feel are probably the best in the Metroid series, and it's why I knew I had to make a One Villainous Scene video. Because if the SAX is really evil, truly evil, it makes the player question if Samus is as moral as we thought she was. At the end of the day, Samus never went below the belt, she never crossed the line. She never made her enemies suffer even when she had the opportunity, and some might even say the justification to do so. That is what separates Samus and SAX, the ability for Samus to have mercy and compassion, even to her foes. SAX really is Samus though. She's Samus, but heartless. And Fusion had perfectly set up this quandary and their role reversal with that beautifully unnerving close-up of SAX's face right at the beginning of the game. A copy of a hero with no soul. And that's exactly what made it Fusion's best example of One Villainous Scene. Thanks for watching.